Let me tell you something straight out the gate. There's a certain kind of person who thinks a clipboard gives them the power to wreck your whole life, and in my neighborhood, her name was Patricia Holloway. Your daughter was loitering again, she announced, jamming a violation slip against my chest like it was a badge, her voice just dripping with that special blend of smug and menace she saves for public humiliations. This community doesn't tolerate delinquent behavior, Daniel. And then, as if to really twist the knife, she added, "That bench you keep on the greenway, it's coming down." Now, maybe most folks would fold, would let the silence swallow them up, but not me. I took one look at that slip, then at her plastic smile, and let the quiet do the heavy lifting. Finally, I said, "That bench is protected by the easement. It was here long before you were ever elected to this board." I watched the color drain out of her face just a hair. Not much, but enough. If you've ever had to stare down a bully and felt that little jolt of satisfaction, then yeah, you know the feeling. I was just getting started. Patricia blinked, tried to press her advantage, but I wasn't playing that game. You see, Patricia, I'm not just another homeowner. I spent 6 years as a paralegal before I ever taught a single class. I've read every word of these bylaws, and I know exactly where they're brittle. My voice was steady, not loud, but it made her uncomfortable bullies hate when you don't flinch. That cedar bench, it wasn't just a hunk of wood. My late wife's father carved it by hand, his last project before cancer took him. Emily, my daughter. She used to sit there with her mom, watching the lake go from summer green to winter gray. After cancer took her, that bench became a lifeline. One piece of our world they hadn't stolen. So when Patricia started gunning for the bench, it was personal. And as for Emily, she'd only gone to the clubhouse pool like any teenager would. And Patricia treated her like a vandal, made accusations, all but cornered her until she had to prove she wasn't hiding anything. The thought of my daughter being intimidated by an HOA officer, treated like a criminal in her own neighborhood, if you're a parent, you get it. I tucked the violation slip into my pocket, folded neat, and I leaned in, my voice barely above a whisper. "You picked the wrong family, Patricia. You know that calm that settles over you when you've had enough." That was me. I'd spent my life teaching people how systems of power could be taken apart piece by piece. I didn't need to shout, she knew it was coming. See, Patricia thought she could erase my wife's memory and humiliate my kid with a single piece of paper. What she didn't know was I was already moving my pieces. The law was my classroom. She'd just enrolled in the lesson. Walking back across Willow Bend's manicured lawns, I let Patricia's smile roll around in my mind, that look people get when they think they've already won. But I knew something she didn't. Those bylaws she loved so much, they were about to turn on her. That night, I headed to the clubhouse, which was less a gathering place than Patricia's own private stage photos of past presidents, all her all the time. Violation slips spilling off the notice board stamped with her initials like a king's seal. From the lobby, I watched the Dawsons retired couple, sweet as can be, arguing with the receptionist over a triple fine for having the wrong color roses. They looked beat. Next came the Hensons, young family, 2 toddlers getting written up for a plastic kiddie pool on their patio. Everywhere I looked, people who weren't part of Patricia's inner circle were getting hammered. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about me or Emily or the bench. This was about a whole neighborhood living in fear. Years of teaching civics had trained me to spot patterns, and I saw them everywhere, fines clustered on anyone who didn't fit Patricia's mold. I started jotting down details in a notebook quietly, nothing flashy. The receptionist squinted at me, but I just smiled. "Board business," I said, and let her wonder. Later that night, I walked past the greenway, past the bench glowing in the moonlight. My wife used to sit there cradling Emily, pointing out the stars. Yeah, it was more than just wood. Patricia wanted to rip out history and call it compliance. "Not happening," I whispered. "Not anymore." The next morning back at the high school where I teach, my mind wasn't on essays, it was on strategy. A coworker, seeing the stack of HOA papers, grinned. Planning a revolt, I shot him a look. Something like that. After school, I tracked down the Dawsons, got the full story, then the Hensons humiliated by that stupid kiddie pool citation. Every bit I wrote down was a nail in Patricia's coffin. Bullies are bold, and boldness leaves tracks. By sundown, I was sitting with Emily on the bench, her headphones looped around her neck, still raw from Patricia's harassment. I told her they want us quiet, but that's not who we are. The bench creaked under us, and I realized Patricia hadn't picked a fight with one family. She'd started a war with every neighbor she'd ever silenced. It wasn't going to end with a slip. It would end in court. Problem is, you don't win in court with just anger. You need witnesses, documents, courage. That's when I found Caleb Rose, the only security officer on duty when Patricia cornered Emily. He was at the pool, shifting from foot to foot, face painted in gold and worry. I caught his eye and said, "You were there. You saw what she did." He froze, his fingers drumming the rail, didn't want to answer, but he didn't have to. His body said it all. I let him off the hook for now, told him, "When it matters, the truth will count." He muttered, "She told me it was standard procedure. Said I'd be out of a job if I didn't follow orders." There it was, the crack in the armor. "There's nothing in the bylaws about strip searching a kid," I told him. His jaw tightened, but he nodded. He wasn't ready to testify, not yet, but I knew that guilt would keep working on him. Then Patricia escalated. She slipped a letter under my door, final notice, unauthorized structure, giving me 10 days to remove the bench or face daily fines. I sat at the kitchen table, coffee gone cold. The letter flat under my hand. Emily found me staring at it. "She's not going to stop, is she?" I told her. "No, not until somebody makes her." Next, Patricia put on her show. She called a compliance forum by the lake, packed the place with flyers and folding chairs, started up her little PA system, and painted my bench as a tripping hazard, a threat to harmony. But I looked at the crowd and saw more doubt than support, whispers, furrowed brows, cracks forming. When she paused, I stood up, raised my voice, and told them the truth. That bench is legal, it sits on an easement, and I've got the documents to prove it. Gasps. Patricia tried to recover, but the crowd wasn't with her anymore. Caleb, standing off to the side, didn't defend her, his silence louder than any speech. That night I drove to the county records office, dug up the original plat map for Willow Bend. There it was, black and white. The greenway was a permanent easement, benches allowed public seating spelled out clear as day. Patricia had no ground to stand on. I brought the proof to my neighbors, the Dawsons, the Hensons. For the first time, I saw hope crack through their worry. But Patricia wasn't done. She sent a newsletter to every house painting me as a dangerous influence, using my family to obstruct progress. Now it was public, my daughter's name dragged through the mud. That's when I realized proof on paper wasn't enough. I needed to break the silence. So I called a meeting at the high school auditorium. No secrets, no whispers, just facts. Neighbors came, retirees, young families, people who'd been fined, shamed, silenced. Caleb showed up too, hanging back, still wrestling his conscience. When Patricia tried to shout me down, I held up the documents. "Here's the law," I said. "Here's the proof." Patricia blustered, but then Caleb stood, voice shaking at first, but strong by the end. She ordered me to search a 14-year-old girl. That's not enforcement, that's abuse. The room exploded. Patricia's grip shattered. Neighbors crowded around Caleb, then me, finally seeing the truth. Marcus, my brother and a damn good lawyer, drew up a petition for injunctive relief. Defamation, abuse of authority, improper enforcement, the works. We gathered affidavits from families across Willow Bend. People who'd kept their heads down now found their voice. The Dawsons, the Hensons, dozens more. Even Caleb signed on, finally at peace. I took everything to the board envelope, sealed, evidence clear. Patricia sent out another blast, tried to frame it all as a stunt, but every email, every denial just dug her deeper. By the next board meeting in the gym, the whole neighborhood turned out shoulder to shoulder, nobody afraid anymore. Patricia tried to control the narrative, but the crowd booed her off her own stage. I laid out the evidence. Caleb repeated his story for all to hear, and Marcus dropped the lawsuit in plain view. The judge ruled fast bench stays, violations thrown out, Patricia personally liable for defamation. When it was over, neighbors hugged, cheered, even wept. Emily sat beside me on that cedar bench as the sun went down, sketchbook open, finally safe. So let me ask you, where's the line between order and control? Have you ever seen power abused where you live? Share your story. Below, hit subscribe. If you believe in fighting back, and let's remind every Patricia out there, you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us.